Welcome back to Beyond the Gate, our Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood podcast. I'm Megan.
And I'm Meg.
And today we're talking about episode 14, Those Who Lurk Underground.
Yeah, I'll give a summary of the episode. So, in a violent clash with greed, King Bradley proves to be a brutal opponent, but the man who finally destroys the ultimate shield is more powerful than even the Fuhrer himself.
Yes, and this episode corresponds with manga chapter 29, Eye of the King, chapter 30, The Truth Inside the Armor, and chapter 31, The Snake That Eats Its Own Tail.
Yes. And before we jump into the episode, we have two announcements. One, next week we will not be releasing an episode. We're going to take a break for the holidays. Yeah.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Yes. And happy holidays. And then also we are going to try to do something fun or post something fun on our Instagram for over the holidays.
Stay tuned.
So, yes, stay tuned. We have not planned that yet. It'll be a surprise
know we're going to do something.
To everyone, including us. All right. We can get started with the episode. So, I almost said chapter. Episode 14. We start off with Roy has officially moved to Central, and we just see him like walking through the halls, and everybody's like whispering about him, and they're kind of, I wouldn't necessarily say they're like mean things, but like they're like, how he's so young, and like how did he get here so far, and he's gonna fail, and like all this stuff.
Speculation and questioning his character too.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
Who did he bribe to get this far in the military?
Yep, and then he just like smiles and like, I don't care. And then we find out through this that the Fuhrer is away at the southern headquarters, which we know from the manga. I don't think they said that in the last episode.
No, but we know for sure he's in the south because that's where Doubleth is, and that's where Greed is. And
yeah,
they're about to go down.
Yes, things are about to happen. So Al is in the sewers with Greed's crew, the dog, what is it? Dolcetto and Myrtle and Roa. And Dolcetto like smells something. There's like somebody's here, and he and Roa like run off. And we see that what he has smelled is the Fuhrer, and is at the Devil's Nest with Armstrong, and then also like a bunch of soldiers. And he's there to attack them. I'm sorry, there's like,
you can't die yet. You haven't finished the
episode. Back at it. So then we see Ed and Izumi. We left them. They're like fighting with Greed, and Greed is like, "Man, I don't want to fight you guys," and he like runs off. He gives up, kind of
makes a hasty retreat.
Yes, he realizes he might not be able to win that fight, and Al is crawling very slowly through the sewers. He's like,
it's really cute.
He's like fighting with Myrtle, like
he's like inchworming his way.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Come on, move! I don't wanna." You can really hear the kid come out in his voice in that one.
Yeah, and then we see Greed arrives. He finds them, and so does the Fuhrer. He's also in the sewers now, and he like kind of viciously attacks Greed. He like cuts off his arm and just starts. He starts attacking him. I mean, we've already seen like, some of his swordsmanship skills, but he's like going ham.
Fast.
Yeah, he's very fast. And then we see the rest of the battles that are going on. Armstrong and Roa are fighting, and It's kind of funny. I feel like they're pretty evenly matched, and Armstrong, what did he like turn something into like?
Yeah, Roa has this giant hammer that he uses to fight, and as he swings it, Armstrong uses his alchemy and punches it with his his spiked gloves and turns the head of the hammer into a mini statue of himself.
Yeah, and he's like, it's the famous Armstrong statuary technique.
Passed down for generations.
Yes. But then that fight going on pretty cool, and then we see, I don't know, it's sadder seeing that the chimeras are just like being slaughtered by the soldiers.
Yeah, and the soldiers are not even considering them to be human, even though even though their DNA has been altered, they still have part human like sides to them. So it's terrible because it's kind of this mass murder scene, but they don't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And
although in the manga, actually, towards the end of the battle, the soldiers do like they do say something like, it's kind of, I don't remember exactly what they said, but they were kind of sad, like that they just like slaughtered everyone. Like, why did the Fuhrer want us to do this?
Yeah. I feel like in the anime it's a little more like they're on board with it because they call them freaks.
Yeah.
But I wanted to also note in the manga that Roa and Dolcetto were more seriously injured. Like it's a really intense setup, but Dolcetto actually gets stabbed through the stomach with a sword. And I think it is the Fuhrer when he first arrives there.
Yeah,
It's pretty shocking because there's just a panel of Dolcetto's eyes widening, and the next panel you see the sword down. It's like you don't realize what happens until later. He stabbed through Roa. I can't remember specifically what happened, but he gets
he
shot,
also
maybe?
he also gets injured.
Yeah, and it seems like they're dead, but they do come back later through like sheer force of will because of their loyalty to Greed and try to find him, even though they shouldn't move with their injuries.
Yeah. And then we head back to Roa and Armstrong fighting, and we find out that Roa was actually he fought in the Ishvalan War. Armstrong was like, well, we used to be allies, and I think that kind of softens his Armstrong's heart towards him, because even though I think the Fuhrer does say to kill all of them at the beginning, Armstrong he does beat him, but he doesn't seem to be. He's not trying to kill him.
It doesn't seem lethal. It seems like blows to knock him out, if anything.
Yeah, and actually, it's interesting because in the manga, it does, like the Fuhrer like tells him later, like you needed to kill him, and like he says like that's why you've never been promoted, because you show mercy to your enemies, which I thought was interesting.
Yikes.
Yeah, and so Roa's kind of losing the battle, and Dolcetto like comes in and rescues him from Armstrong and also the soldiers too, and they run off to find Greed. And then we go back to the fight with the Fuhrer and Greed, and Fuhrer's like just totally annihilating Greed. And he like stabs him in the neck, like through the neck, and then the Fuhrer's eye patch like falls off, and he opens his eye, and we see that his eye is an Ouroboros tattoo.
Pretty sick.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I remember like first watching this, I was like,
I believe our reactions were, oh!
Yeah.
Things just got more interesting.
Yep. Yeah. And Greed is also shocked. He didn't know that he was, he's the Fuhrer is a homunculi, which I don't know, kind of surprised me too that Greed didn't know him.
Yeah,
because he knew lust and envy, but he didn't know Fuhrer. So interesting.
And they will get into that later,
which
is really cool that they actually explain.
Yeah, it is. I appreciated that. And then the Fuhrer basically tells him, like, I'm gonna kill you, and he's like, how many times is it gonna take? And then we go back to Al and Myrtle. They're just like sitting and waiting. Al is actually, he is like chained, so he can't.
Yeah, his hands and feet are tied up.
Yeah, he can't really escape. And then the Fuhrer and Greed, they come back, and the Fuhrer says he's killed him 15 times already, which is a lot.
Yeah.
Sorry.
He's only mostly dead.
Yeah. He's only mostly dead, which means he's slightly alive.
Yes.
Roa and Dolcetto arrive to help Greed, and it's super sad. It's so sad, because Dolcetto's like cut in half, and Roa
gets, you don't see it, but
yeah,
I think he gets his face slashed.
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. And Myrtle is like there, like screaming and like trying to escape, and before they get killed, Dolcetto like frees him.
Al's chains because
and he like tells them to get Myrtle out of there.
I love that the friendship, the bond between them, because he's like, hey, do us a favor, get her out of there for us. And Myrtle's like, no, I want to stay with you and fight. But Al, makes sure that she can't get out because he knows as soon as she gets out, she's going to be killed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And no matter if they were enemies before, he doesn't want to see her die.
Yeah. It's just, it made me really sad. Even though they're like the quote unquote bad guys, it's like, it doesn't feel like they are. I don't know.
Anti-heroes, I guess.
Yeah.
I like them. Them.
We are sad, but Greed doesn't appear to be sad. And he basically
he's angry.
Yeah, he's mad, and he's like, you just took away my possessions. Like, they're all my possessions. But then the Fuhrer, like, I think he takes like 4 swords and just like stabs.
Yeah, so interesting note. The homunculi, almost all of them, I mean, you don't see this on the Fuhrer, but they have these kind of designs over their clothes and their skin, red lines that end in circles. And where Greed has them, he has it top of his shoulders and around his sides, I think, like midway down his chest on his side. So the Fuhrer sticks the swords through those points. And I'm wondering if those points of contact, like, if that paralyzes him or something.
Yeah, they're like, I don't know.
Like veins or nerves that if you stab, that he can't regenerate from there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems to just take him out of the battle immediately.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's just kind of done. Yeah. But then the Fuhrer goes to check on Al, and Myrtle is like still trying to escape, and she like puts her hand through Al's arm, and she grabs the Fuhrer by the neck with Al's hand, and the Fuhrer like he reaches down and he kills Myrtle while she's inside of Al, and her blood like mixes with Al's, and Al.
Oh, the blood seal on the back of his armor. Yeah, it gets splashed.
Yeah, it gets splashed. And I don't know, I would say he kind of like passes out, but he he gets his memories back. He remembers seeing the truth, and he sees like the same thing that Ed saw. He like he sees that figure, and then who I don't think doesn't say anything during this whole interaction, and he goes like beyond the door, and he sees his mom, and then he kind of, I think he mostly just sees images from his life during when he's inside the door, and then his body like kind of gets traded.
Yeah, it disintegrates, and you see it reappear on the mysterious white figure who smiles evilly with Al's face, which is beyond creepy.
Yeah, and then what I find interesting is that he like becomes his mom, at least in the anime. It like becomes like what he like he sees Ed from his from his
you
mom's
see that
body
like
that they tried to create.
right. You see that
Yeah.
green hand reach out towards Ed, and then it just falls and everything fades to black. So we can
Yep.
assume that he was inside that creature that he and Ed created.
Yep. Yeah. And then he wakes up and Ed and Armstrong they removed like his
They removed the breastplate so they could take Martel out before he woke up.
Yeah, which was very kind of them, but also
the sweetest thing though is Ed, screaming like "Ow, wake up," which any moment of concern between Ed and Al, you can see how strong their bond is, and how if anything happened to the other, it would just break them. So Ed is very relieved when Al wakes up, but then Al immediately has concern for Ed because he's like, "Brother, you're covered in blood." And Ed has to tell him it's not his blood. It was Martel, and Al looks down and he sees like, all the blood surrounding him. And Al just kind of breaks down because he's like, "Oh, I couldn't save her. I couldn't help her."
Yeah. Very. It's so sad. He's just like a 14-year-old boy, and
he's such a sweetie, and the worst things happen to him.
Yeah. But then the Fuhrer ruins the moment. Kind of. He comes to talk with the boys, and he's like, "Did the guy with the Ouroboros tattoo like tell you anything? And did you tell him anything?" And he's like, "If you did, I gotta kill you." And Ed says, "Nope. We didn't say anything.
Didn't trade any military secrets."
Yep. And then the Fuhrer asks him about Ed's missing limbs and Al's body, and he's like, asks if there's a connection between the two, and Ed just doesn't say anything.
Yes.
And the Fuhrer was like, "Oh, I appreciate your honesty."
Or he calls him an honest kid, which it says a lot because rather than try to lie, Ed just stays silent, which can be a good thing. I think that's a strength to have, like when to know to remain silent, because anything he would have said probably would just incriminate him even more.
Yeah. And of course, like, I don't know, I feel like you can assume that the Fuhrer knows what's up already.
Seems to know everything.
Yeah. Because how did he even know to go to the Devil's Nest? But anyway, the Fuhrer then visits Izumi, and Izumi like thanks him for watching out for the boys, and which I think is kind of sweet. But then, even though we know now he's not the greatest guy, but he asks Izumi to become a state alchemist, but she says no. And then there's kind of like an odd moment that passes between them that we don't understand right now what's going on, but he just studies Izumi very carefully and like seems to like come to some conclusion about her, and then like the scene's over. And then we see Armstrong, Ed, and Al, they're talking, and I like this moment because Ed is like very carefully like cleaning Al's armor.
Yeah.
He's caring for his brother. I actually just give me 1 second.
There's a meme about it.
Yeah, not a meme. Well, it's not
or
a meme.
an explanation.
I just wanted to pull it up and I forgot. I saved it, but I didn't read it.
Well, I saw a meme where it said, "Why did we forget about this outfit that Ed wore? That was the most stylish one. Forget his red coat." He's wearing like a black long sleeve shirt and olive drab cargo pants that have a lot of cool pockets on them and like these suspender looking things hanging down. I would dress like Ed.
Yeah, me too. Feel like I have dressed like Ed before.
I know I've dressed like Ed. Oh, come on.
Yes. Ed is always cares for Al. Like, even though he's just like a suit of armor right now, he still sees him as a person and something worth, his body is worth caring for. Yeah. And it's very sweet. But anyway, they are discussing the Ouroboros tattoos and how like the people at the Fifth Lavatory had them. And at that moment, like Ed says something about Hughes, and Armstrong suddenly remembers that
they don't know.
Yeah, Hughes gone, and they don't know. But he doesn't say anything. All he does is just like he just like tells the boys not to do anything rash, and then he's like walks away. So
I don't think know. Now was the moment for him to break the news to them, though, given all they've been through.
I agree, but also I don't know. It's like
they're gonna find out sooner or later,
and everybody else already knows, and like they were, I don't know, fairly close with Hughes.
There would be a better time to tell them, but at the same time, don't walk away.
I think that would have been I think that would have been an okay time to tell them, because they're like discussing everything, and then they like find out like, oh, he's, he was, I don't know. It's
I just think with Al having somebody killed.
That's true. That's true. That might have been too much for them.
So I get where Armstrong is coming from, but at the same time, withholding information like that is never a good idea.
But then, after Armstrong leaves, Ed and Al keep talking, and Al tells Ed that he remembered seeing the truth, but he didn't learn anything about human transmutation or how to get their bodies back. And Ed is like, he's chill with it. He's like, that's cool.
I think he's just impressed that Al could remember.
Yeah. And then, interesting, Ed questions the Fuhrer's intentions, because the Fuhrer, like before, when they were like trying to learn about the Fifth Laboratory, he was like, there's, when the Fuhrer came to visit him in the hospital, he's like, there's something going on and we need to keep this to ourselves and try to figure out what's happening. But then when they meet someone that might know something, he kills everyone. And he was also leading this kind of seemingly random mission. So Ed is like, what's going on? And I don't think they say this in the anime, but in the manga, they're like, I think it'd be a good idea to stay near the military for now and try to figure out that, they might know about the Philosopher's Stone and, how to get our bodies back. But I think that's kind of the last we see of Ed and Al for this episode. Now we go back to Greed. He has been captured by the Fuhrer, and we first only see the Fuhrer, but then we see that all the other homunculi are there as well. The ones that we've met so far, Envy and Lust and Gluttony, and then Greed as well. And I love Greed. He like just roasts everyone. Like, he tells Envy to get a new outfit, and which
that is a classic. Like, okay, say Envy is the middle sibling. That is a classic like older sibling thing to say to the middle sibling.
Yeah,
get some new clothes.
Yeah, like come on. And I think Les says like they haven't seen him for like 100 years. Like Groot has not been around. And he also like names each of them. So it's Lust the Lascivious? I don't know how to say that. It's something. And then Envy the Jealous.
Lascivious.
Yeah, that's right.
Lust the Lascivious.
Yes. And then Envy the Jealous, and then Greed the Avaricious.
Yeah. And Gluttony didn't get one, did he?
Yeah, I don't think he got one, but then
Gluttony the Hungry.
Yeah, basically. And then we also see that there's also one named Sloth. We just see him somewhere, but he's not there.
There's like a brief flash of an image, but his back is turned.
Yeah, so we don't really see him. But then the Fuhrer introduces himself. He's Wrath the Furious. And he was created by Father. And one thing that's interesting is that he can age, which the other homunculi don't. And Greed is like, that's not possible. And he's like, well, you're the one that always says nothing is impossible.
Yes. I wanted to interject too. So it does surprise Greed that he doesn't know this about Wrath, but he knows everything else about how the homunculi operate. So he even knows their special moves, shall we call them? Because Greed has his ultimate shield, but he also says that Lust has an ultimate spear, and we know that Bradley has an ultimate eye. So there's a theme running that each of them have like one other superpower in addition to like the quick healing and the immortality.
Yeah.
Or assumed immortality.
Yes, but we've yet to find out the other homunculi's special skills, but we may or may not learn what they are. I don't know, they're after the introductions, then Greed just continues to like he like picks on Envy.
He's merciless.
He like calls him ugly, and he's like mentioned something about Envy's true form. And they're just like bickering, and then we see this, I don't know, chair, I guess, and there's a guy sitting in it, and he tells them to stop fighting. And Greed's like, oh, Father's here. And again, he calls him decrepit. Like, he's just like that.
He can't help himself.
Yeah, he's just like that witty sibling that just like constantly like roasting everybody else, and I'm here for it. I may have a
sibling like that.
I love it. But then this Father dude, he asks Greed to work for him, and Greed's like, I never will. And then they lower him into the molten lava, and it's
okay, trash this, son. Let's start over.
Yeah, basically, Father's like, well, then you're gonna rejoin my soul, and Greed's pretty like, I don't know, he's pretty brave about it. He's like,
I really appreciated that actually. I mean, you see like little sweat drops, and he gulps like he is. He's scared, but he takes it very well, and he even is able to dish out more sass as he's going down.
Yes, he does. And then after he's destroyed, like we see like this red liquid kind of comes out, and then Father drinks it, which I remember the first time seeing that, I was like, ew, that's disgusting.
The blood of my enemies.
Yeah.
It was distilled and like reduced down to a goblet of red wine looking liquid.
And then so that's Father drinks it, and that's kind of the end of that scene. The last scene of the episode, we see that the Fuhrer has a family. He has a wife and a son named Salim, and the son is adorable. He's like,
of course.
Yes, of course he is. He like runs up to his dad, and he's like, tell us about your adventures and what'd you do? And he's like, well, I met Full Metal, and Ed would not appreciate this, but he's like, oh, you met the little Full Metal? And
Alchemist. Salim is a Full Metal fanboy.
Yeah, he is, and he's like, I want to be a State Alchemist too. And then that's that episode. Just a happy family scene. But also, like, not, because the Fuhrer is a homunculi, so.
Yeah. Oof.
Yeah. So that is the end of the episode. There's just two, like, extra manga things that I wanted to mention. One, there's, like, a little short story, about, Second Lieutenant Havoc and and Armstrong, I guess.
It's great.
So as we know, Havoc had to break up with his girlfriend to move to Central, and he's very upset about it. And Armstrong is like, I have a sister who might be good for you. And it's funny because Havoc's like imagining a girl version of Armstrong. He's like, oh, no, I'm scared. But Mustang like forces him to meet her. Like he's like, it could be good for me. Like could be good for your career and my career. And so, he goes to the Armstrongs, home, and he meets the father and the mother, and they're both like super huge and like intimidating.
I mean, the mom looks beautiful, but she's super tall.
Yeah, yep. And he meets the sister, and she's
Normal.
beautiful. Yeah, she's
Adorable.
normal, she's beautiful. Yeah, she is very cute. And he's like, what do you do? What are your hobbies? And she's like,
Piano.
Piano. And then he's like, oh, that's normal. And then she like lifts up the piano.
I like lifting it for my exercise.
Yeah. And he's like, well, okay, whatever.
I can look past that. I can look past that.
Yeah. And so he asks her out. He's like, you want to go on a date? And she rejects him because she likes men who are strong, like her brother. Basically, it is pretty funny. And then we go back to Mustang, and he's like, and we find out Havoc hasn't been into work for a week, and you just like see him sobbing in his bed.
And in case you're wondering, this was animated in the 2003 Fullmetal Alchemist, and it was really funny.
Yeah, so if you want to watch it, check that out. And then another like very brief funny thing that I will post is there's a little comic of Truth and Ed, and it's just like Truth is like wearing these boxers, and then we see Ed like, Truth took my boxers.
I feel a draft.
Yeah.
And he's like crossing his arms over his legs, like, ah.
Yeah. So I'll post that. But it's fun extra manga things.
Yeah, super fun. I really enjoy those tidbits she puts at the end. I like her notes too. In some versions of the manga, she'll have notes about her experiences while working on it. I just finished one where she's talking about her finding out that they were adapting it into an anime. And she's like, no way. I'm an unknown author and I'm getting a show. And of course, the anime deviated from her series, but she did have a hand in talking to the writers and everything. So it was kind of cool to learn about her experiences in a funny, brief comic.
Yeah, I like those.
All right, so now that we got that done, we'll go right into voice acting notes. So we wanted to honor our dearly departed here, and we did the chimeras, or some of the chimeras. We'll get to the others later. But we've got Martel, played by Tiffany Grant, who is Nojiko from One Piece, Kuretake from Ouran High School Host Club, and Asuka Langley Soryu from Neon Genesis Evangelion. And Dosado was played by John Bergmeyer, who is Shigure Soma from Fruits Basket, Ed Shot from My Hero Academia, Tetsuya Senno from Ouran High School Host Club. If you couldn't tell from our reactions, we like Shigure.
Well,
most of the time.
Mostly, yes.
And then Roa is played by John Gramillion. He's Calvi from Attack on Titan, Coach Irahara from Haikyuu, and Gentle Criminal from My Hero Academia. And for their name meetings, Martel's name is of English origin. It means strong or upright. Dosado's name is from Italian origin, and it means little sweet one. And he's a dog, so I'm just like, this just fits. This is cute. And Roa is of Spanish origin. It means arched wood that forms a bow. So like a bow shaft, I think. I think those names are actually really fitting for all of them.
Yeah, I agree. I like
Dosado. That would be a cute dog name. If anyone has a puppy out there, that's a good name idea.
Legitto. Yeah. All right.
Hey, oh yeah, we have one of our tracking things to cover.
Yes, the homunculi deaths.
Yes, Greed died 15 times, plus the quote-unquote real death when he was melted down.
Mm-hmm. So I think
His
that
final death.
he died once in the last episode, right? Or is it? I can't remember. He's at like
Once...
he was at like
he died once because
17,
he had Roa demonstrate.
Yeah, I think he was at about 17 deaths total that we've seen.
So there could be more too. I remember seeing this comic where it's like, wow, or the homunculi are watching Greed go into the lava, and Envy said something like, wow, you died quick. What have you been doing all this time? And Greed, like, in his last months of life, is imagining all the times he had his henchmen, like, clobber him just to see what he could take.
Well, I feel like I've seen that one. And also just like when Roa like smashes his head, it seems like that wasn't the first time he had done that. Like
and the gist of the comic was that he's the type of guy to be like, hey, let's try this new thing. Light me on fire.
Yeah. Yep.
We all know guys like that, I think, who would just try any stunt just to see if they could do it.
Yeah.
Whether or not it means bodily harm to them. Okay, moving on to animation. So the expressions on the characters went a long way. I really enjoyed seeing the variety of expressions, the intensity of their faces during fight scenes, or like when Ed was checking up to see if Al was okay, and the desperation in his eyes. It's just something I enjoy with traditional hand-drawn animation because it's raw emotion. And sometimes in modern CG animation, you just can't get it like that.
Yeah, and that's something we have been thinking about lately because we're watching season 4 of the Dragon Prince.
And we like the end credit sketches better than the actual style of the CG.
Yeah, I don't like the how they animated it. I prefer the first person.
Yeah, I think it's fine, but they made the mistake of putting painted art in the middle of one of the episodes, and that made me just really want. Oh,
it was amazing,
beautiful.
Oh yeah, so philosophical analysis. We don't have too much to say, but it's just I mean, you kind of already have, figured this out from previous episodes, but there's kind of the theme of the villains are like the 7 deadly sins. So we've got wrath, lust, envy, gluttony, greed, and sloth. We're just missing pride. Yeah. Yeah, we'll get into that more later, but
and it makes you wonder. Right. It also makes you wonder if the heroes are supposed to be like the heavenly virtues, if they're supposed to embody some of that, or the fruits of the spirit. That's never said explicitly, but I'm probably going to be thinking on that as the episode progresses.
Now that you mentioned that, me too. Thinking we can watch out for that.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway.
Story elements analysis. Know your enemy. The song just started playing in my head. We learn a lot about the bad guys of the show in this episode. A lot of times in stories, the audience will find out more than the characters do. So we know more than Ed and Al do at this point about the homunculi.
Yeah. Honestly, I remember the first time watching this, like, I was still real confused. Like, I was like,
oh, definitely.
Who is this guy in the chair? And he just drank greed.
Guy in the chair.
Yeah. Yes, the guy. How come there's always like a guy in the chair that's just like sending out his
He just needs like a cat to stroke, and then the image would be complete.
Yep. So that's the end of the episode. Megan, what was your favorite line of the episode?
Yeah, mine is kind of weird, I suppose, but it was when Greed said, "So killing my henchmen is the same thing as stealing from me, and I don't let people take what's mine." which I don't know. I think I found that possessiveness he had, although he's not really, it's not really wholesome exactly, him talking about his allies, but just him being so fierce about it, I'm like, I think he really cared about them, and that gave me a little bit of closure on that subject.
Yeah.
What was your favorite line?
So
Go on, say it.
Mine was also from Greed, and it was when he was being lowered into the lava, and he's talking to his siblings, and he's like, "Why don't you come on in, kids? The water's fine, nice and hot, just like the flames in hell."
We have a meme for that one.
Yes, we do. Yeah, I will definitely be posting it because it's like the convincing your friends to watch anime, and then it's the
Genie, the water's fine. Meg sent that to me one time, and I don't know where I was, but I just remember I busted out laughing. All right, moving on. What was our moral of the episode?
It is be wary. Ed and Al, they look at the Fuhrer's actions and they're like, something's not right there. And it's basically, if your gut is telling you something is wrong, listen to it.
Yeah,
and
instincts are important.
Yes, instincts are very important. Who pushed the story forward in this episode?
King Bradley. We saw a lot of important behind-the-scenes bad guy moments through him, and Al, in part, got his memories back because of him, when he stabbed Martle.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Poor Martle. Oh,
poor
also,
Ed.
Yeah, and Al is just, poor Ed and Al just watch all these people die in front of them.
I know. It's so sad.
But we had a listener comment about King Bradley, didn't we?
Oh, yeah. Cody said something. Let me see. Yeah. They said that King is actually Bradley's first name, and basically it just says that this dude was really like created to be in charge.
Exactly, yeah. The Fuhrer president, King Bradley. Just sounds like a very imposing name. It reminds me of Regina from Once Upon a Time, if you listeners have watched that show. Her name literally means queenly, and she is the evil queen. What a coincidence!
Yeah. I love when it's like, I mean, there's multiple characters that are named in this show that are like like Armstrong.
Kiss.
Like also very like on the nose. And
you can't beat Riza Hawkeye.
And yeah, Riza Hawkeye, that one. Like,
I want to see a shootout between Riza Hawkeye and Marvel's Hawkeye, like Clint Barton versus Riza.
Yeah, who would win?
She would probably lose with a bow and arrow because I'm not sure if she does traditional, but she probably would win with a rifle.
Yes, but if they each had their prospective weapons, who would win? I think she would win.
Okay.
I don't know. I'm just thinking.
I mean, she's good, but I was thinking Clint Barton might win just because he has all those trick arrows, so he knows how to do fancier things with them.
That's true. But I was just thinking, like, just the weapons themselves, like, I think it might be easier to.
A gun would probably win against a bow and arrow.
Yeah, like easier to dodge.
Yeah, but yeah,
if you would actually see it coming, where
but if we're talking about trick arrows, he can do all sorts of things with those and propel himself up. And
a little bit. They're also like different time periods, so
yeah, exactly.
Kind of a, I don't know. Who knows?
Comments on this topic.
Yes, comments.
We want to know your thoughts
on this random topic. Yes. Yes, follow us on Instagram at Full Metal Beyond the Gate. And if you have any questions or comments, DM us or email us at fullmetalbeyondthegate@gmail.com. We'd love to hear from you. And we will see you not next week, but the week after. So happy holidays.
Stay safe and enjoy time with your families.
Yes. All right. Bye.
Bye.